Amal Clooney is one of those rare women who instantly command respect while being very feminine and elegant at the same time. And despite being married to one of the most famous actors of Hollywood and one of the most desired men, George Clooney, she never disappears into the background. She stands beside him as an equal, not because she's flashier, but because she carries herself with an extraordinary intelligence, dignity, and quite authority. And today I want to break down the feminine presence, body language, and behavioral patterns of Amal Clooney that create this incredible kind of elegance, and show you why Amal Clooney is such a fascinating example of high status femininity and true elegance. So let's dive into this video. Hello my dear viewers and welcome back. Today we are going to analyze Amal Clooney. So take a tea or a coffee and enjoy this video, and if you are new here and are interested in feminine presence, body language, feminine influence and how to cultivate all those aspects in yourself, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We will start with one point that is very specific for Amal, and it's intellectual presence. It's something that you rarely find in Hollywood in general, actually. Intellectual presence is something that we find in women, but not often in women that have at the same time this kind of strong feminine aura and very elegant aura. This is kind of this rare combination of authority and intelligence paired with beauty and femininity. People who don't know about her, for example, who don't know that she's actually a very capable attorney in international human rights law, they still perceive her as competent. And that's not because they know about her background, but that's because of her whole body language and her presence. And this mixture that I'm talking about is also highly attractive to high status men. So what are the aspects that contribute to this intellectual presence that Amal has? She speaks rather slowly. She doesn't rush her words, and every sentence is intentional. Maybe you have seen this little speech that she gave once, and she talked to George Clooney. It was actually very touching. This way of speaking, that's what I mean with those aspects. And that's what also underlines this very classy intellectual presence.
He is the person who has my complete admiration, and also the person whose smile makes me melt every time. My love, what I have found with you is the great love that I always hoped existed.
Also, she has rather calm facial expressions and very little unnecessary movement. And that's similar to Angelina Jolie, who also has this calm confidence aura. That has a lot to do with a rather calm body language. She also listens before speaking, which is a very important aspect. She pauses without looking insecure. And also she doesn't smile constantly to seek approval. So this impression of her being intelligent is because we don't just judge intelligence by words. We also judge it by body language and by the perceived status someone has. So my tip is, if you admire this kind of very interesting mixture of intelligence and beauty, I would advise you to always, and you should do it anyways, if you are not doing it yet, I would recommend you never stop learning. Even if you don't have a very intellectual career or profession, you can always develop your mind, learn languages. I speak 6 languages and I'm learning Arabic now, 7th actually. I think this is really good to cultivate your mind. Also read books or find something else to simply have something to talk about. And it doesn't have to be something that you find boring. Just find something that is really interesting for you. And now we will come to the second point. Another very interesting aspect in Amal Clooney, femininity without performing femininity. What I mean by that, femininity can be expressed in many ways. Many women try to appear very femininely with a rather exaggerated or almost theatrical body language, way of dressing, way of talking or expressing. Amal does not try that. And that's exactly why we perceive her as so feminine, because it's very natural and fits her style. Even though she's not the very feminine Hollywood Barbie, and her features are even a little bit androgynous, especially her facial features, also her body type, a little bit sharp in her features, she still has a very strong feminine aura. And that's because she simply embodies her own way of femininity. She never overdoes her makeup. She's rather elegant instead of flashy. She doesn't use exaggerated flirting gestures. Her movements are rather relaxed, and her femininity simply comes naturally. And I think she never seems to ask the room for attention. She simply assumes her place in it. And this is, by the way, also one of the principles that I currently explain more in depth in my channel membership in the Level Up group. It is really helpful to understand the psychology why women like Amal are admired so much. So if you're interested to join or try it out, you will find the link down below. And now let's continue with point number 3. Why George Clooney never overshadows her. That might be maybe one of the most interesting parts in this whole story, because we all know who George Clooney is. And I think there is no doubt in his extreme charisma, in his extreme desirability as a man, of course, but also as a Hollywood actor. Still, she's very much on the same level with him as a woman. And even though George is one of the biggest movie stars, very attractive, yet Amal never appears just as the wife of George Clooney. She has her very own identity and a very high status in her own field. She walks beside him. She keeps her posture, and also she doesn't constantly look for his reaction. She doesn't shrink herself, and in the end they look like equals. Even though one could say, okay, of course she has a great job, etc., but he is a worldwide known Hollywood star. But the thing is that real confidence isn't about trying to outshine anyone. It's knowing that your own value doesn't disappear just because another more successful person enters the room. So my tip for this point, or to implement this in your own life, would be to always have confidence and have your own identity no matter what you do. There is such a beautiful saying, I think I have read it in one book of Dale Carnegie, one of my favorite authors, and it is something like, if you can't be a highway, then just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. You never have to feel of a lower status just because, for example, the man you are with is of a very high status in terms of maybe career or finance, because you can be of a high status in your own field or even in your own world. It doesn't have to be career. It all has to do with confidence and identity. So that's what we can learn from Amal in this point. Now let's continue with point number 4, and that's important. It's the controlled body language. So basically we now come to the actual body language analysis. I have already hinted to the good posture, which is the base, of course, but we also see some things that, as I said, we also see in other women that have a lightly similar aura, such as Angelina Jolie. By the way, I have already made an analysis about her. I will link it down below so that you can watch it if you like. So the things that we can notice in Amal Clooney are, first of all, slow gestures. Also, controlled hands. We notice relaxed shoulders. That makes also a big difference. And also, very important, steady eye contact. The eye contact is a very important point when it comes to exuding a specific feminine presence. And another thing that I also talk about often is the pace. She has a very calm pace. She's never hectic, and her movement is rather economical. That means that she doesn't do things with her arms or with her body that are unnecessary. People often confuse confidence with taking up a lot of space. Of course, it is important not to shrink or not to make yourself small, but I think Amal Clooney does the opposite. She controls her movements, and that makes every gesture appear more important. Point number 5. Amal never competes for attention. We can see that she never interrupts, she never dominates conversations, she doesn't seek validation, doesn't laugh louder, doesn't constantly perform. All of these are habits, behavioral habits and communicative skills that give her this very confident, calm aura. And ironically, many people become even more noticeable the moment they stop trying to be noticed. So my tip here is, if you are naturally shy or introverted, you can stop worrying and start being confident about it. Because quiet confidence is actually very attractive nowadays. And if you want to know more about this, I will link down below the video about quiet confidence that I made. Now let's go on to a point that is even more specific. And I think that this is very typical and very unique for Amal Clooney, and that's quiet power. Quiet power is even one step further than quiet confidence. It's stronger, because what Amal Clooney exudes alongside her beauty that is undeniable, that's why I don't even talk about this here. We all know that she is a stunning beauty and very elegant, but she also has this kind of calm authority, a certain dignity, a self-control. She also has emotional stability, so there is never drama around her. She has this kind of competence, of course, because of her job, and she also exudes that, but also she always appears elegant, purposeful, and confident without ego. So that's all contributing to quiet power. And quiet power isn't about becoming invisible, but it's about becoming impossible to ignore without ever asking for attention. Now, let's look at the feminine archetype that Amal Clooney represents. I would place Amal Clooney in the queen archetype. The queen archetype doesn't seek attention. She doesn't chase validation. She doesn't try to prove her worth because she already knows it. She leads with dignity, emotional composure, and quiet authority. And that's exactly what makes her presence so powerful. I think Amal Clooney reminds us that true feminine presence isn't about being the flashiest or loudest person in the room. It is about carrying yourself with so much self-respect that other people naturally respect you. And to me, she's one of the clearest modern examples of the queen archetype. Let me know what you think. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up, because in my next video, we'll take everything that we've learned from Amal and turn it into practical body language tips, which I will also demonstrate to you. So I'll see you there. Thank you.